The Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off a Monday Night Football loss against the Detroit Lions, taking on the New Orleans Saints. This one's in New Orleans. Dalton, I know you got thoughts here on how the Saints have played at home versus on the road this season. They are at home in this one, so talk to me about the Saints offense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what necessarily to glean from this split that I found here on Spencer Rattler, and just I don't know if it's a preparation thing, if it's a comfort thing in the Superdome, if he just likes playing indoors or what, but when you look at Spencer Rattler and his performance split between his home games and his road games this year, when playing in the Superdome, Trev, he's got an 89 PFF grade with 9 big-time throws and 3 turnover-worthy plays, basically playing like one of the elite quarterbacks in football in the Superdome. And when he goes out on the road, it's quite the opposite. 51.7 grade there, 2 big-time throws, 12 turnover-worthy plays. Was it 6 of them that he had last week against the Bears in Chicago? So, look, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's comfort, preparation, just a better decision-making with the football, maybe not dealing with the crowd noise out there on the road. When he's been in the Superdome, he's been really good, and you've seen that from the Saints in the games that they've played in that building. They've looked really good. Even if they haven't won all these games, they've looked really good in the Superdome. The defense has been solid, keeping them in games. Maybe they haven't been able to finish off games all 60 minutes with wins, but this team, if Spencer Rattler plays like that in New Orleans, they're dangerous. They are a threat. I mean, they don't have a boatload of talent all across their team, but when you have a quarterback playing to that level that you saw in the top half of that graphic, they're certainly a threat, especially to a Bucs team that at times has struggled in coverage, right? So I just think it's something noteworthy and just an odd split. We don't do a whole lot of home and away splits here because it's not necessarily a strategic thing or X's and O's or even generally coming down to correlating to future success, but it is something I think to note through the Saints' first 7 games is that Rattler looks a lot better and their offense looks a lot better when they're playing in the Superdome, and the Bucs need to take that seriously because they have played well in most of the games that they've played in.
For the Bucs, I mean, it's very simple. Baker Mayfield just has to play better, right? I mean, you go back to that Lions game and you say like, oh, well, what did the Lions necessarily do against Baker Mayfield looked like he shotgunned to Celsius before the game. 2 Celsiuses maybe. Maybe Stone Cold Steve Austin, those things. He looked like he was so amped up for this football game in a bad way, where the ball was just sailing on these wide receivers and everything was 100 miles an hour. And I get it was a big game. You got to make these big throws happen. But he was 28 for 50 versus the Detroit Lions. Just a 59.6 adjusted completion percentage in this game. And then we have some more advanced sort of accuracy numbers here. 40.5 accuracy percentage on his throws. That's his lowest of any game this season. And he had a 33.3% uncatchable inaccurate target pass percentage, which was the highest of any game that he has had so far this year. So simply put, Mayfield was not the MVP candidate version of himself that we have seen throughout this season. And I figured that it was going to come down a little bit for Mayfield because that's sort of who he has always been during his time at Texas Tech, when he was at Oklahoma, when he was with Cleveland, even in Tampa, as he's had success over the last couple of weeks. He has always been a little bit of this live by the sword, die by the sword, and you've got to be okay with some of these performances where he just kind of goes off the rails and it's not working for him because there's so much magic when it does work. But last week was just simply a game where it wasn't working for him. He was way too amped up. He was not as accurate as he needed to be. And they simply just were not going to win the game with him playing like that. I think that this is going to be a pretty tight game between these two teams. The Bucs offensive line obviously has to play well. It doesn't seem like we're going to get Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin back because it's a little bit shorter of a week with them playing on Monday Night Football going into Sunday. I wonder if we get those two guys next week. But, we're recording this show and it's early on a Wednesday. So things could change there. I still think Tampa's the better team. I think it's going to be close. But I'm going to say the Bucs win this one 23-17 in New Orleans.
And a big factor in that loss Monday night was the fact that Mayfield was under pressure 52% of the time. You just don't win very many games when your quarterback's under pressure half the time. So I think that's going to be a factor the other way when it comes to the Saints and their lack of pass rush. And the Bucs, even with Bucky Irving out, they should have an ability to run the football in this very vulnerable Saints run defense. I'm with you. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think Rattler can bounce back from a poor performance in Chicago last week. He's been really good at home. I'm going to take the Bucs as well. well, but it's going to be a dogfight 27-24.
Drake in the chat is saying that he thinks Baker's. I'll read the full message from him just to give the context. He says Baker's a limited quarterback, but he could win a Super Bowl with a defense like the 2013 Seahawks or the 2015 Broncos or the 2024 Eagles. I don't know if I would. I wouldn't call Baker Mayfield a limited quarterback. I'd call him a high variance quarterback still. That's probably the way that I would put it, is like when Baker is on, he can be the reason why you go on a big winning streak, independent of the defense that you might have on the other side of the football. But then you also get games like the ones against the Lions that we saw on Monday night. And you correctly mentioned like how much he was under pressure, how much the Bucs were having to try to mitigate what the Lions were throwing at him. Like there were a lot of factors involved, but Mayfield was a reason why they were not able to get double-digit points in this game, because he just was not as effective as he needed to be. And so you hope that it's a little bit of a bounce back, because then if it is, you'll get a pretty good game with how New Orleans has been able to play in the Superdome so far this season. All right,